Asia to accept our sincere gratitude. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Distinguished guest, we have just concluded a truly charged session. As the law of physics states, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed, and today we have certainly transformed complex legal discourse into actionable insights. My sincere gratitude to our chair, Honorable Mr. Justice N. Koteshwar Singh, Judge, Supreme Court of India, and co-chair, Honorable Mr. Justice A. Mohammad Mustaq, Chief Justice, High Court of Sikkim, for their expertise and guidance that provided structural stability to this session. Our subject matter experts, to our keynote speaker, Mr. P. Ravi Kumar, IPS, retired, and Chairman KERC, for his insightful address. I also extend my gratitude to our distinguished panelists, Honorable Mr. Justice B.M. Shyam Prasad, Judge, High Court of Karnataka, Honorable Mr. Justice E.V. Venugopal, Judge, High Court of Telangana, Honorable Mr. Justice Lakshmi Narayanan, Judge, High Court of Madras, Mr. Chandramouli Kasina, Executive Director, SSEA, and Mr. Loknath Behra, IPS retired, and MD, Kochi Metro Rail Limited, for providing their valuable perspectives on the regulatory and legal aspects of the energy sector. To our moderator, Dr. Giri Shankar Sir, Vice President, CLIA Asia and Principal, St. Dominic's College of Law, Kerala, for ensuring that the ideas remain constant and engaging. I would also like to thank Dr. Ruchi Sharma, Joint General Secretary, CLEA, and Director, Commonwealth Institute for Justice, Education and Research, for her insightful analysis and valuable input as our discussant. To Dr. Vikram Singh Arya, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and Secretary, CLIA Asia, for a warm welcome. To our rapporteur, Ms. Sheenam Thakur, Ms. Juni Reena Chako, and Ms. Satakshi Gaurier, for capturing this session so effectively. And finally, to all of you, the delegates and participants, for your active enthusiasm. Let's carry this momentum forward. Thank you.
There is a quick, short high tea. We shall meet again at 11:45, and then we shall commence our session 4. I would request all honorable judges to proceed to the first gate for the high tea. We shall commence session 4 at 11:45 a.m. sharp. Thank you.
source of power to
because the environmental impact of this renewable energy projects is also very huge. If you take the transmission lines, each transmission tower now takes almost 1 acre of land. And as per the law existing, we don't pay the land compensation for the transmission lines. We only pay for the right of use and diminution of value, but we don't pay anything for the land, and land cannot be used. Once there is a land below a transmission line, it cannot be used for any other purpose, but we don't pay compensation. That's the law. So therefore we have all kinds of issues of right-of-way problems. People don't allow us to put up transmission lines. A gestation period for a renewable energy project is 2 years, but the gestation period for transmission lines is almost 5 to 10 years. Therefore, this is the whole integration is becoming a problem. Role of judiciary, I don't think I should raise this because a chair has elaborated on it and what is the role of judiciary. Judiciary, as we are all seeing, is the highly complex issues are coming up. Environmental issues are coming up. We also have to, both judiciary, the policy makers, regulators, all have to learn this. These are all learning issues for us because the technology is changing so fast. We are not able to keep pace. Even the law is not able to keep pace with the technology which is coming up. The law made in 2003 was a landmark law, but in 2026, I don't think it even addresses any of the issues enough. The entire thing is rewritten, as the chair has said. Therefore, the changing law, the changing technology is something which we have to keep abreast. Otherwise, we will not be able to deliver justice and the way we have to do for the energy transition, for energy reliability, and for equitable justice to all. Therefore, to conclude, energy transition is just not about capacity addition. We can add capacity anywhere. Anywhere you can spend money, we can add capacity. But we should build a flexible system, well-governed system, and therefore we should have the grid infrastructure should be strengthened, flexibility should be strengthened, there should be regulatory clarity, otherwise there will be no investment, and we should be judiciously, everybody should look everybody equally and see that there is equitable system. People should get affordable, clean energy, otherwise the system will not work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your reflections, particularly in this land. And we are really fortunate to have this conference in this place, which had taken the lead role and as well as created some models for others to emulate. Now that we have got the addresses by chair, co-chair, and keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen, have set the tone for further discussions. We will be having a speaker panel. We have got 5 esteemed persons to speak to us. Let me invite Honorable Mr. Justice B.M. Shyam Prasad, Judge High Court of Karnataka first in this speaking panel to address us. So all the speakers will have 8 minutes each. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. It's been underscored by the chair, Justice Mushtaq, that we come from that generation which did not study energy law, which took for granted that energy would be produced from burning coal and having hydro projects. Now, I will only touch upon, given the 8 minutes that are allotted to me, I'll only touch upon 3 or 4 points. And I would begin by mentioning a remark that is attributed to a former Saudi Arabian oil minister. And I was reading about that. I read this when I was going through a magazine about 2 weeks back. The remark is this: the Stone Age did not end because people ran out of stones, and the oil age will end long before the world runs out oil. Now, this statement captures many emotions, and this definitely made me stop and think. We did not come out of Stone Age because the stones disappeared. Will we run out the oil before we learn anything? And this is where the topic, this is where our today's topic, transition, infrastructure, and governance, become important. We have grown up, I can speak for myself and many others, we have been grown up saying, hearing people say, it is simultaneous generation, distribution, transmission, and consumption. You generate, and then you distribute, and you consume. Now, we are speaking of transition from fossil energy source to non-fossil energy source. And as Sir was mentioning, it is solar, wind, chiefly as of now. And this shift from fossil fuel source to non-fossil source challenges this process because it is intermittent and it is variable. Sir, being the technical person, explained why it is intermittent and variable. For me, what was interesting was to find out what is thought of as a solution. If earlier we generated, distributed, transmitted, consumed, now to handle intermittence and variability, what is the solution? And the solution is easy, is what comes across as being easy. Build a storage system. You store electricity that is generated by this intermittent variable sources. What kind of storage could be was the next question for me to research or to dwell a little more. And I came across pumped storage plants and battery energy storage system. One is called PSP, another is called BESS. These are widely recognized as the reliable energy storage systems. Now, this is another interesting aspect for me. The nation's installed power generation, it is said, as of January 2026, stood at 520.52 gigawatts. And because of the national determined contributions, which was alluded to earlier, we will have to generate 50% of this from renewable energy. And this makes me ask the next question. 4 years, where are we today? We know where we have to head and where we are today, and this is what I got to know. We have to develop a capacity by 2030, PSP, that is pumped storage plant, capacity of 128.15 gigawatts per hour, and 208.25 gigawatts hour from battery energy storing system. So this is where we have to be, 50%, and this is the capacity. Where are we today? BESS capacity stands at 490 megawatts per hour, and we will have to contribute, we'll have to develop, what is being developed rather, is 13.7 gigawatts per hour. This gives us this tells us rather that we are on a time scale. The scale of investments that will be, and the scale of everything that will have to coalesce if we have to be at the target and move further on the target as a viable proposition. Respected Chair, a chair referred to jostling of space, with subjects being on the concurrent list, the state list. Now, this was another interesting thought for me as a law student, because we unbundled, that's the expression that is used, when we got our 2003 Electricity Act. And we were not speaking this language. Of course, 1995 was there, but we were not speaking this language. So my question was, did we tweak the laws too much? Did we make many laws to align with this great challenge of meeting a target? It's a target that we have declared to the world after some yo-yoing, as I may say. And interesting, could anybody take a guess on the tweaking that has happened in the enactment and the rules? Did we bring in a complete regime change? No. In 2020, I must say in 2016, we revised tariff policy stipulating that long-term growth trajectory for renewable purchase obligations will be prescribed. This we did by revising our tariff policy, which is published by the central government in exercise of its powers under Section 3 of the Electricity Act. No change in the law. Power that was conferred was exercised to declare a policy. And in 2023, the prescription comes about. We speak about RPO, renewable purchase obligation, and energy storage obligation. Somebody who believes in tools to find solutions, now these are two wonderful tools. We have to meet the target. What's the path for the target? Generation is, of course, we have spoken about. The capacity building is, of course, another thing. How do we go about achieving it? So the government has stipulated in exercise of its policy-making power under the statute that somebody will be obliged to purchase renewable power and somebody will be obliged to store. Now, apart from please check this, it makes an interesting reading. And the only other change that they did, significant change, is amendment to Electricity Rules 2022, simply saying your storage, electricity storage system will become part of the power system that is listed under Section 250. Now the problem is complex. The solution that we have begun with, the solution within the legal framework that we have begun with appears to be simple, but then, as with all new areas, we begin simple. We draw support and strength from our past experiences, and we evolve. And I'm sure this conference is also going to be indicative of this process, and I wish the conference all the success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a very incisive and forensic analysis. And interesting questions posed by sir also, which need to be deliberated further, either in this conference or the follow-ups. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite Honorable Mr. Justice E.V. Venugopal, Judge, High Court of Telangana, to deliberate on the matter.
Good morning to you all. Respected Honorable Justice Koteshwar Singh, the Honorable Judge of Honorable Supreme Court of India, and Honorable Chief Justice of Sikkim, Justice Mushtaq sir, and all my colleague judges on the dais and the dignitaries on the dais, and of the dais, the Honorable dignitaries, the Chief Justices, and also my colleague judges from different parts of the country, and more particularly, the students community who are assembled here, and as well as the dignitaries and experts and having the expertise in this energy who are assembled here to discuss about the sustainable energy agenda at 2047. 2047 is not the logical agenda, the year on which we are discussing about. By then, our country, this nation, would become 1 century old independent India. We must congratulate ourselves in bringing this independent India from 1947 and targeting in 2047 insofar as the energy is concerned. I do not know, majority of them, the students who are assembled here, I'm sure that they're not aware about the land rents on which the kandil, I don't know whether you are aware it or not, where we used to depend on the kandils and the kerosene stoves in those days to cook our food and all utensils. From those days to these days, now our energy has been transferred in such a manner. We are sitting in this very Bangalore in Shangri-La Hotel, the 5-star hotel, and in the closed doors, where the energy is supporting us with the oxygen and to maintain the energy for everybody to proceed with. And that is the development which has been taken, the growth has been taken in the energy sector. And thanks to the development being taken by the great contributors of this energy in this country, great country. Now you all know, as we've been discussing about the sustainable energy 2047, and in the 2047, the reimagining law probably that is to be emphasized upon in this conference, majority of all are belonging to legal fraternity. As I see, the laws are in place as of today, perhaps are good. And in the days to come, as you all know, that these laws are perhaps not sufficient, as procure and the consumers are the one who are the citizens of India by themselves. They're converting the solar energy, biogas energy, or all other wind energy into their own benefits, and they've been consuming the energy by themselves. And where are the laws sustained? Rightly and appropriately, I'm also one of the beneficiaries to hear the great speech of our Honorable Chief Justice of India, where he has stated the laws are there, and the courts are always vigilant, and they will stand up and rise to the occasion. And one example which has been given by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, where 720 trees have been felled, and they've been cut and fell, where the Supreme Court has taken stock of the situation, and though it has allowed that particular thing to happen, which has already happened, but still it has imposed the condition upon the fellers of the tree to plant 185,000 trees in peripheral areas of Delhi. Thereafter, so many kilometers, I do not remember how much of extent of land, of hectares of land has also been directed to make it a deforestation of that particular in terms of deforestation. So this kind of vigilant actions been taken by the courts time and again. Perhaps what I assume that in the days to come, the energy courts will come into place, and to make those energy laws to come into place, we have to strive forward, and the younger generation has to contribute much. As rightly stated by Honorable Chief Justice Sri Mushtaq, that you are the one it is in your hands to come forward and see to it that these kind of laws and our potential claim on the energy has to be converted into kind of transmission under any service circumstances. Yesterday I was hearing Honorable Chief Justice Mr. Sain from Kerala High Court. He stated that one sun, one world, that is upright and appropriately stated. I'm quite pleased and impressed, and rather privileged to hear Honorable Justice Koteshwar Singh sir this morning, where the energies are very much required, but the laws have to stand up to the occasion. I feel these laws will certainly stand up to the occasion one day or other, and to strive that mission forward, these kind of conferences are very much required. I'm conscious of the fact I've been given only 8 minutes of time, and if I'm traveling much beyond, I'm not doing justice to myself. Therefore, by making a last word where you all have to focus, let me remind you the convention made in Paris, the young generation, they sat early 80s, and they stated, now you please save us from the global warming, where the ozone layer has been becoming thinner and thinner day by day, and thereafter that has also been re-emphasized in 2015 Paris conference by the young generation themselves. Therefore, deforestation is required. Like our neighboring country, the air quality in Bhutan is very much clear and categorical and very much clear, and they are enjoying the fruits of that particular air quality, where the constitution mandates in Bhutan the 60% of the land has to be the forest, and accordingly we may have to enlighten ourselves and strive forward and see to it for the younger generations, the air quality and as well as the energy which is required to be given to them in a proper sense, and in consonance with the judicial reforms are to come forward. And since we have already heard many of the speakers yesterday, and we have to hear many of the eminent speakers today to come forth, and thank you very much to all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you one and all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for identifying that the youth has to take over from the queue, and then also reposing faith in the learners of the law to be part of the scheme of things. Incidentally, one aspect to be told is that I think there is a government resolution that there should be energy clubs in all the legal education institutions, and irrespective of, I don't know whether it's law colleges alone, but other institutions as well. So you have got a job at your hand, and I'm really happy to tell you that from my institution we are provided the research base of it, which you can scan through the QR code in the badge. That is a modest attempt on the part of our institution to partake in the activities that is being taken care of. So just like that, this could be emulated, and every single institution should form part of it, because we are in a transition period. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Honorable Mr. Justice Lakshmi Narayan, Judge High Court of Madras, to deliberate.
Respected dignitaries on and off the bench, dear students, I'll just give a broad legal framework, and then I'll point out what are the difficulties that we have to address in order to achieve the 2047 goal. Our governance, electricity is in the concurrent list, in particular entry 38 list 3. Exercising this, we have the Electricity Act of 2003, and section 861 and 86 mandate promotion of generation of electricity from renewable resources. We have now a draft electricity amendment bill of 2025 that makes renewable purchase obligations, empowers the SERCs to mandate certain entities such as DISCOMs, distribution companies, to purchase a minimum share from renewable sources. The draft bill broadens this to include non-fossil sources too. Now, what is the penalty? It says penalty for non-compliance of RPO, that is the renewable purchase obligation, is fixed at the rate of the market price of the renewable energy certificates, at the rate of, believe it or not, 30 or 40 paise per unit. What is the implication of this? The renewable energy certificates are tradable certificates, representing 1 megawatt of electricity generated from renewable sources. Entities may start buying RECs instead of meeting their renewable purchase obligations by purchasing, instead of installing renewable energy units. Currently, REC prices are discovered through trading on power exchanges. The prices vary on demand and supply. However, a fixed penalty, when set below the prevailing REC prices, risks distorting this otherwise a good mechanism by incentivizing obligated entities to simply pay the penalty and get away with it, rather than to procure renewable energy or purchase RECs itself. In effect, penalty may operate as a de facto price ceiling, undermining the efficiency of the REC market and weakening the intended regulatory push towards renewable adoption. So we first have to address this issue. Second, the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. The specified entities are obligated to meet a minimum share of energy consumption from non-fossil fuels, non-fossil sources. Failure to do attracts a penalty twice the amount of every metric ton of oil equivalent of energy consumed below the prescribed form. Hence, unlike the draft electricity bill, electricity amendment of 2025, penalty is linked to a market-determined price energy instead of a fixed amount. So they will be forced to go in for renewable sources. Then we have the other green energy project which has been notified by the government. There is no specific parliamentary legislation on this. Why is green hydrogen not being implemented? Unfavorable cost economics, lack of harmonized standards and regulations, supply challenges, costly enabling infrastructure have so far held back the replacement of fossil fuels with green hydrogen or its derivatives. Now, coming to solar, everyone is speaking about solar. Right from 2010 onwards, when we introduced the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, originally we targeted 20 gigawatts, we revised it to 100 gigawatts. Then policy instruments like Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana have attempted to address financial and compliance-related challenges. In line with Paris Agreement, several of them have spoken about it, we want to achieve it, zero emission by 2070. Now, I will go with the legal aspects, what is delaying the implementation. First, I have pointed out that electricity comes in list 3. But, surprisingly, water projects subject to entry 56 list 1 is found in entry 17 list 2, which means that there is a separation at the levels of governing systems for energy itself. Second, energy transition objectives are addressed by different governing agencies like legislatures, regulatory bodies, courts, and even private industry standards, which result in overlapping and inconsistent approaches. Energy policy versus climate. In China, I'm giving it because China is number 2 in energy consumption, we are number 3. In 2023, on account of low amount of rain, led to reduction of up to 40% in hydropower generation compared to the previous year. And the biggest dam in the world is in China. Consequently, China has now pushed to rely more on fossil fuels to compensate for energy deficiency. Disparate energy impacts and energy access among individuals and communities, global disruptions like the Libyan war, Russian-Ukraine war, COVID-19 pandemic have intensified energy demand during recovery. Post-COVID, the International Economic Agency, Energy Agency, IEA, has said it has gone far beyond the pre-pandemic levels. We are consuming energy like never before. There is one aspect which has not been spoken about, that is the interference of the World Trade Organization. And it adds an additional complicating layer. Principles of non-discrimination and free trade under the WTO organization often bring tension to our domestic policy. The particular aspect that I speak about is India solar cells case of 2013. Under the Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, measures we took for our domestic and solar modules, WTO found it inconsistent with our international trade obligations. What is the solution? We need for more state-centric coordination in generation and evacuation. I give the example of Rajasthan, a standing example. They have been able to generate 23 gigawatts of renewable energy, but what they have been able to transmit is only 18.9, leading to a close of about loss of 20,000 crores per year. Despite the commissioning of the K3 Narela line, technical constraints and grid congestion continue to exist. As of December 2025, 4.3 gigawatts of solar energy is being curtailed due to transmission shortages. Now, why do I require it? We go back to entry 38 list 3, state center coordination. Second, gradual relocation of energy subsidies through renewables. In this, they have found that worldwide governments are spending US $1 trillion 18, which is 7% of the world GDP in 2020. They are on fossil fuel subsidies. In some cases, while reducing support to renewable sources, we do not need to remove these subsidies from energy sector, but we need to move these subsidies towards renewable energy and support the transition. Third, cross-border trade renewables. The sun shines, the wind blows, the water flows, but not all in the same place at the same time across the globe. So every cross-border trade in renewable electricity can help even those special and temporal mismatches in supply and demand. Yet again, I refer to Chief Justice Soman Sen's declaration that he had referred to from COP 26. By trading energy from sun, wind, air across the borders, we can deliver more than enough clean energy to meet the needs of everyone on the earth. The One Sun Declaration was launched in COP26 by India and UK, supports Green Grid Initiative, One Sun, One World, One Grid. Now, key factor which affects the courts are the land acquisition aspects and human rights of the people who are dependent on the land. Times of India reports in February 2026 that at least 25 projects are currently delayed due to land acquisition clearance, and 24 are directly related to renewable energy sources. The delays are allegedly on account of the Right to Fair Compensation Act. For private renewable sectors, Section 2(2)(b)(1) says 80% have to consent to it. Insofar as renewable projects, it says a lower level of 70%. For government-led solar parks, no consent is required. While these safeguards are indispensable for right-based approach, their operation within fragmented administrative framework often leads to prolonged timelines. The criticism against consultative process is a small minority is stalling it. Are 1/5 of our farmers a small minority? Now let us see the measures which the government can take. A standing example is Gadag, where they came up, the companies like Borka, Suzlon, Greensol and Enercon entered into agreements with farmers and said, we will not take the entire land. It did lead to fragmentation. Now I want to point out the Pavagada Ultra Mega project itself. It is called the Sakti Sthala. It exceeds 13,000 acres, but local communities have often expressed concerns about potential soil degradation due to prolonged shading and declining groundwater levels, particularly given the substantial water requirements. Now, how do we balance it? I am going to give two examples. The first one is the experience of Scotland, the other one is of Japan. Scotland has brought up with a compelling model of community land ownership in renewable energy. Under this framework, local communities not only host renewable projects, but often own or co-own them, deriving direct financial benefits through revenue sharing arrangements. The latest development in renewable energy is in Japan. It has established something called agri-voltaics, and amid rising deployment and tighter regulation. What is an agri-voltaic? It allows solar panels to be installed above farmlands under temporary land conversion permits, generating electricity while maintaining agriculture production. The agriculture production is constantly monitored. If it falls below 20%, the permission to install the thing is revoked. Researchers at the University of Tokyo have identified technical pathways to improve solar agricultural outcomes, noting that advanced designs such as dual axis tracking with artificial intelligence can adjust panel angles seasonally to better balance sunlight for crop and crop production. Finally, some out-of-box thinking is required. It has to be an all-round approach. France has come up with carpooling as incentives. Netherlands has come up with cycling, people who cycle as an incentive to avoid fuel cells. Now, we should adopt such kind of measures to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the reflections. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Chandramouli Kasina, Executive Director, National Thermal Power Corporation. In fact, his presentation assumes importance, particularly because the persons who have got domain expertise need to feed both lawmakers, judges, as well as bureaucrats. Sir, please.
Good morning. I start with a stanza from the work Stray Words of Rabindranath Tagore. I quote, "Who is there to keep up my duties? Asked the setting sun. I shall do what I can, my master, said the earthen lamp." Unquote. This simple yet profound exchange captures the essence of transition with responsibility. When an old order gives way to new one, Continuity does not come from abrupt replacement, but with careful stewardship. In the context of India's energy transition, this wisdom reminds us that progress must be anchored in accountability and institutional strength, and of course, rule of law. Honorable judges on the dais and off the dais, distinguished panelists, learned colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I speak today with a certain comfort, knowing that I am addressing an audience with a strong legal presence. Because in energy sector, we have learned one simple fact. Projects may be announced by policy, designed by engineers, financed by banks, but they endure only when they are governed well and stand the test of law. India stands at a defining inflection point, balancing energy security, affordability, and decarbonization. Vision 2047 requires not incremental change, but system-level transformation of infrastructure, markets, and governance. NTPC's journey reflects this shift from a thermal backbone to an integrated energy measure. From NTPC's perspective, the transition must be understood not merely as a shift from one source of power to another, but as the creation of a larger, smarter, and more resilient energy system, one that can support India's growth aspirations while maintaining reliability and affordability. Niti Aayog's power sector scenarios show that electricity consumption is expected to rise sharply from 1,541 terawatt hours in 23-24 to 8,070 terawatt hours by 2050 under the net zero pathway. Total capacity is expected to reach around 3,800 to 3,830 gigawatt, with non-fossil sources accounting for 89% under this vision. The message is clear. The transition must be ambitious, but it must also remain stable, secure, and just. India's energy demand is rising rapidly, and the country must prepare a power system that can support growth without compromising grid stability. The challenge is not just about adding renewable megawatts, it's about ensuring firm, flexible, and dispatchable power when it is needed most. Decarbonization cannot come at the cost of reliability. For a country of India's scale, for the energy transition must protect consumers, preserve DISCOM viability, support workforce, and avoid stranded assets while still moving decisively towards cleaner power. For NTPC, this means evolving from conventional power generation into a broader energy integrator. The future is not thermal versus renewable. It's about portfolio optimization, system integration, and round-the-clock energy delivery. NTPC targets 60 gigawatts renewable power by 2032 and 136 gigawatts by 2037. NTPC is increasingly focused on renewable energy, green hydrogen, battery storage, pumped hydro, and hybrid or round-the-clock renewable solutions. These strengthen grid stability and support national energy security. Our established strength in project execution, land availability, transmission connectivity, and operational capability give NTPC an important role in this transition. The real bottleneck in the transition is infrastructure governance. Renewable capacity is often added faster than the transmission infrastructure required to evacuate and integrate it. Land acquisition, and permitting remain fragmented. Transmission readiness often lags behind a generation, and storage still needs stronger market and regulatory support to become fully bankable. This is why India must move from capacity-centric planning to system-centric planning. Faster clearances, anticipatory transmission development, and stronger center-state coordination will be essential in coming days. The next phase of policy must enable round-the-clock renewable procurement, ancillary service markets, and stronger frameworks for storage and flexibility. Carbon markets should be credible and investment-friendly. At the same time, emerging technologies, green hydrogen, offshore wind, bioenergy, smart grids, forecasting tools, and AI-enabled dispatch must be supported through clear regulation and appropriate risk sharing. These are not isolated technologies, they are part of a larger system design for the future. Recently, NTPC has seen upgrades in its ESG rating with multiple global agencies, including MSCI. It must ensure affordable tariffs, equitable access, and community participation. It must also protect livelihoods and support vulnerable regions. ESG is no longer just a compliance requirement. It is increasingly a driver of capital access, reputation management, and strategic differentiation. The goal should be a transition that is inclusive, investable, and institutionally robust. That is the kind of framework that can support India's long-term energy security and development goals. I will end by saying that India has a rare opportunity to build one of the world's most balanced energy transition models, one where growth, sustainability, and equity move together. The coming decade will decide whether we lead the transition with confidence and discipline. From our perspective, this is the real objective, to help build an energy system that is cleaner, stronger, and more reliable for a Vikasit Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for calibrated insights, particularly when you said that it is not one system against the other, but it is optimization and integration. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Loknath Behra, former State Police Chief Kerala, presently Managing Director, Kochi Metro Rail Limited, and is involved in a big, exciting initiative that is Kochi Water Metro, which is largely being subscribed by not only by many states, but also countries outside. Please.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Co-Chair, very distinguished persons on the dais, and dear students, friends. Energy, for me, actually, being a user, heavy user, every day for metro rail operation, I use almost 78,000 units of power. And that's a very small metro. I'm just thinking about Bangalore or DMRC, how much they must be also consuming. And that also added now the water metro. Everything runs on electricity. So every time the finance people will come to me and tell, sir, ज़्यादा पैसा जा रहा है. The energy consumption, cost, is increasing not only in Cochin, but also elsewhere in the world. That is the actually biggest challenge for the metro companies which use electricity all over the world. Now I say that actually energy is like life. Take the example of Mr. Suri, who is the official photographer of this event. He's using a camera. The camera uses a lithium battery. And he keeps one spare battery in his pocket. And he just, when he clicks, after some time the battery suppose goes up. And a very important incident, Honorable Justice Koteshwar Singh Saab is speaking something. He has to say, sir, please stop. I will change my battery. So I was wondering, probably the shorter cameras which were earlier there, they were better. But it is inevitable that we are using digital cameras with battery operations. So can the battery itself charge inside the camera? Now people are talking about the things like land acquisition for the solar panels to be put, solar farms to be put. Now, trust me, there are a lot of actually work going on. How to actually use not the land, but the space to have actually like the space stations, there will be space where we can put the panels. And the latest, I went to Gujarat and saw some of the innovative actually panels which are being made by the US companies, not to be sold here, sir. They are very miniaturized, very small ones, and very powerful. But probably it will come after some time. What I wanted to say is that sustainable energy, I was talking to Girishankar Saab in the morning, I said that, have we ever defined sustainable? So what is sustainability? This is a debate going on. I went to a seminar in the World Bank. They also asked, what is sustainability? You talk about sustainable transport, you talk about sustainable tourism. What is sustainability? Then one of the experts said, sustainability is equal to life. That is the definition of sustainability. But I think probably the time has come, we can think, legal luminaries can think of actually having a definition for the sustainability part. What I wanted to say is that we have energy sector and this country should remain obliged to the judiciary. Whether it is MC Mehta case or a lot of other observations relating to energy has come, which has framed the policies of the government. They have thought in a more advanced and futuristic, very proactive manner than us, that how it can be done. So sometimes you get a little angry with what a order, it cannot be implemented. Sometimes you feel. But subsequently you realize that why it has been actually put this way. As I said that, in a company where I use a lot of energy, 78,000, we are actually a metro company which are producing 51% of our requirement through solar. That is the highest as far as the metro companies are concerned. By next year, we'll make it 100%. We are now working on another solar plant project, actually putting in 52 acres of land. But in the meantime, what has happened is that we say that whether the solar has the future, there are a lot of debates going on. There are a lot of technical papers whether solar is the last thing. Now they say that the hydrogen has to come, the ethanol has to come, the ammonia has to come. All these kind of things are actually talking. We are talking the green hydrogen. We have produced a boat, sir, that runs in hydrogen. That is now being put in Varanasi. When you go to Varanasi, you can see actually a boat which runs on hydrogen fuel cell. We will be putting it actually in next 2 years in Cochin or in other places. We are now doing it in Mumbai. So we'll be putting the hydrogen boats. But again, question is that whether that is the ultimate. But it is a progressive thing. It has to go over the period of time and bring better things through innovations and maybe a little more thinking. But whenever this particular thing comes, the role of judiciary becomes very important because the regulations have to be in place to see that the law is actually put properly. So energy justice is very crucial for this, for our country, and which is going to be the Vikasit Bharat. So recently, we had a long discussion with the IIT Chennai relating to the future of fuel in the transport sector. So they have now undertaken a particular research saying that how we will transition from electricity to better things, and which will be cheaper, more efficient, and so that I will not have operational loss. You know, being a company MD, I am also concerned about not only the service I provide as a transport service provider, but also the money which we make, whether it is quite okay or not. So with this, I actually leave the house to think that what is going to be the next. When we discussed this matter with Dr. Sivakumar before this conference was arranged, it said it is the most important thing for 2047 because energy is life. So energy justice has to be there, and the judiciary, the technologists, the innovators, and the policymakers, the civil servants, they must come together to decide where we should go. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you for actually inviting me to this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite our lone discussant, Dr. Ruchi Sharma. Needs no introduction. Joint General Secretary and Director, Commonwealth Institute for Justice Education Research. So, Dr. Ruchi Sharma.
Thank you, sir. Warm greetings to all. So, just to quickly summarize, when we speak about renewable energy transition, we often frame it as a technological shift. And most importantly, it is more fundamentally a shift of governance in itself. Because energy infrastructure is not merely about generation and distribution. It is also about power and how both physically and institutionally we organize and exercise this power. Now, what we are witnessing today is not just the addition of renewable capacity as mentioned by our Honorable Chair and speakers as well, but a reconfiguration of systems in itself, where the centralized models are increasingly intersecting with decentralized solutions. And in looking at this, we also have new actors that are coming. So as one of our speakers, Mr. Ravi Kumar, also mentioned that we are less concerned about the source of energy. Because sometimes it could be suggested that the source of energy could be secondary to the infrastructure itself. And ultimately what matters is the infrastructure that delivers it rather than the source itself primarily. So because the nature of the source is fundamentally which will shape design, regulation, and long-term implementation or sustainability, I think it's more important that we look at the source in that way as well. And in doing so, the very character of renewable energy then is something that introduces in itself decentralization, that in itself would introduce a distribution mechanism that might not work or that might be fragmented. Therefore, the question of source is not merely technical, I feel, and it is deeply linked to environmental responsibility and intergenerational equity. Now, ignoring the source itself would risk overlooking the broader purpose of energy transition itself, and especially in context of renewable energy and green energy. So, and in saying so, just to quickly summarize, what could be done is that in terms of approvals, fewer approvals is not something that we should think about, but how we could have better coordination. Secondly, predictability must be central to our regulation. Thirdly, greater emphasis on early stage consultations. Fourthly, regulatory mechanisms must evolve alongside technology. And finally, governance, which is most important and which would also require us to look at the source rather than the infrastructure that delivers it primarily, is to align multiple institutions that govern and that make this fragmentation. So to conclude, energy transition is not constrained by the need for regulation, I feel, but how regulation is structured and implemented, in which both source of energy and the infrastructure that provides that source of energy is important. And if we can make our legal processes more coordinated, predictable, and inclusive, I think approvals and delay in development or infrastructure management could be strengthened. So therefore, I believe good law does not slow progress. It ensures that progress endures. And I feel by 2047, we would achieve that. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that draws close to this deliberation. Let us continue this organic exercise of deliberating, advancing our opinion, disagreements. All these are part of it because we are in the process of meeting emerging scenarios. Before wrapping up, I think one point I need to tell is that Chief Justice Sauman Sen, what he said seems reverberating in other sessions also. I think one world and one grid. I think certain punchlines will reverberate, and let it be the tone of this session also. Sir, please, sir.
As we come to the conclusion of the session, I was thinking of the law students. I was primarily speaking from the perspective of a student of law. I mean, I am still a student of law. Today, the world today, or in fact the humanity, stands at the crossroads. Our very survival depends on the correct decision we take, correct steps we take on two fronts. One is environment, one is AI. Wrong decisions taken, improper steps taken will cost us dear. The very survival of humanity will be at stake. These two aspects are highly technical ones. It's just not studying principles of law, concepts of law. It requires understanding of how it functions, how the various measures to preserve, sustain environment and AI involves technological know-how. Therefore, my appeal to the students of law is to also explore these areas, new areas of environment, science of environment, science of AI, go deeper into that. Because unless there is a merger of these two skills of law to sustain whatever we are doing, to sustain the society, because without law, without rule of law, we can't survive as a civilization. Therefore, merger of these two skills, knowledge of law as well as the specialized skills of environmental law as AI, is so important because an environmentalist, a scientist, without understanding the legal system, legal framework, may falter at critical stages of his decision-making process. And the law, the students of law, or lawyers or judges, we understand the nuances of these technicalities, the complexities. We won't be able to appreciate how it affects in our society, in our legal system, how we work. Therefore, my appeal to the students of law is to engage yourself in this very specialized field of environment and the AI, so that you will be able to have a comprehensive picture of what is emerging, because that's the contribution perhaps from a legal perspective I am saying, because I am not at all a domain expert in this area. My knowledge of the environmental law, the very technology involved, in fact, is the green hydrogen, how it is produced, it's itself a science. It is not a kind of general science. It's a special science, specialized. We have to have the knowledge of chemistry, physics, all this biology. So these are specialized areas of knowledge. So my appeal to the students is to engage deeper, because it's not, today's law also is not merely, we can't remain to be a generalist. We have to be specialists also, because as a student, as a English, the maxim goes, you say that you can't be master of all trades, something like that. But then we have to be master of all trades, not only efficient in legal principles, but also equally efficient in the specialized subjects of environment and AI. So I would appeal to my dear law students to engage yourself much deeper in these specialized areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now over to Felicitation.
Once again, a very good morning. As we come to the conclusion of this enriching session, session 3 on energy infrastructure and energy governance, it is a time to express our gratitude to our distinguished guest. Therefore, may I humbly request Honorable Mr. Justice Natraj, Judge, High Court of Karnataka, Professor Dr. S. Shivakumar, President, CLEA, and I would also like to request Honorable Mr. Chief Justice of Karnataka to felicitate our distinguished guest. First, Mr. Rama Prasad, IAS. To begin with, first I would like to humbly request Mr. Justice N. Koteshwar Singh, Judge, Supreme Court of India, our esteemed chair for this session, to accept our token of appreciation. Sir, your gracious presence and valuable guidance have greatly enriched today's deliberation. Next, I respectfully invite Honorable Mr. Justice A. Muhammad Mustaq, Chief Justice of High Court of Sikkim, our distinguished co-chair, to accept a token of appreciation. Sir, your insights and leadership have added immense contribution to this session. Next, I request Mr. P. Ravi Kumar.
And there are a lot of finance. Finance is not particularly an issue for the power sector as of now, but there is definitely a challenge which is remaining, that is challenging in the R&D segment, because the moment we are trying to have Make in India type of a concept, because now we don't want to get into the issues of supply chain, which started from Ukraine-Russia war, and presently also we are seeing it. So we need to focus on our own R&D and moving towards the 100% domestic content in different type of segments. This only highlights that we have a requirement of around 70 lakh crore of rupees in just next 10 years. That kind of a requirement is there in different segments. I'll not dwell much on this, but these are some of the approaches we had taken, particularly the competitive bidding routes, renewable energy focus, private sector participation, regional and transmission. Generation-based incentives have been given, VGF schemes have been given, PLI production-linked schemes are on the pipelines. This has really helped, particularly in creating a good ecosystem in the renewable space itself. And we have been able to build the manufacturing capability in the solar panels and wind side of it. And lot of equipments in the transmission segment has also come in this particular segment. Multilateral and bilateral financing, both of them are quite happy to invest in India, absolutely no issues. Blended financial model also we are trying to have. So what is required is efficient market, which improves the price signals and attract investment. Stable federal coordinations, which will reduce your policy risk and enhance the investor confidence, and that will try to take the different markets. I think these are some new integrated market designs we are looking at now from the present scope. Right now, we have just the first one, that is energy-only market. We are trying to move towards the capacity market, frequency services, voltage services. These are all going to help us in further things. Strengthening the markets, federal reforms. I think I need to close, right? Some of the way forwards, I think I'll share these presentations with you all. But I just wanted to touch this particular point wherein, because legal fraternity is here, because electricity should not be treated as same as the different other commodity. There are issues related to safeties. So already there are mandates given to the regulatory commissions, appellate, Still what we see is the moment because this is an evolving sector wherein a lot of challenges comes practically on the ground for which you cannot anticipate. So they saying that you have the legal backup to any of your decisions that you have taken, which again gets into the litigation, probably is a major challenge that the sector is facing right now. I think you need to rely more on the technical organizations, could be the Grid India, could be CA, could be CTUIL, etc., who can really be a better judge to really decide these matters, particularly the technical matters, and solve the issues in a better manner. We have already taken up the matter with CERC for the standardization of the cases, because what we found is number of cases are coming which can be standardized if you are able to standardize.
We have to wind up this session.
Okay,
and I have a request to all the respected, esteemed guests. Don't avoid salutation and straight away start to the topics. Please, please, you can.
Thank you. This is my last slide, in fact. I just wanted to end up saying that we have a peer-to-peer transaction which is going to empower the consumers.
Sir, we are back-to-back, two program is having.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session on the energy markets. Now we move on to the panel speakers, and I invite Honorable Dr. Justice A.K. Jayashankar Nambiar, sir, Judge High Court of Kerala, to deliver his address.
I love these conferences where you're given 8 minutes, and the first 6 minutes you look forward, and the next 2 minutes you look backward. Respected Chair, Co-Chair, brother and sister judges from the various high courts, policymakers, academics, students, good morning to all of you. I wanted to basically start by telling you how scared and how uncomfortable I am with discussing matters of the future. We are talking about in India, sustainable development, etc. In 2047. I don't normally think beyond 1 week. Since there are many students here, I'd like to share that rather unusual quote for somebody speaking at a conference like this. The quote is actually from an animation movie, Kung Fu Panda. We've all heard it. And it goes something like this. It says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. And that's why they call it the present, right? So the reason I'm stressing on that quote today is because when you're talking about this theme for this, sub-theme for this session, it's energy markets, federalism, and investment frameworks. I have no knowledge of energy markets. I have absolutely no interest in investment frameworks, but I would be interested in the concept of federalism, because I think that is something that needs to be focused upon today, and I will try and do that in the next 4 minutes. Why I want to focus on federalism is because the subject that we're discussing today, energy, electricity, falls under what we know as entry 38 in the concurrent list. And so any policy that you're going to have, any regulation that you're going to have, involves two governments, the central and the state. And you need a cooperation between them for any implementation or successful implementation of any policy. And that's something that has been worrying us ever since the days when we introduced GST. And I thought I'll just emphasize on that. Just to give you a little bit of background, the power sector in India is dominated by largely state-owned power utilities which generate, transmit, and distribute most of the electricity in the country. Power generation is from, the various sources, thermal, nuclear, solar, etc. The transmission and distribution segments are responsible for the transportation of electricity from power generation sources to the end consumers, including households, industries, commercial establishments, etc. Now, this last mentioned functions, distribution, is normally discharged by what we call DISCOMs, which are the distribution companies. These, again, are largely under the control of state governments. And Now, of course, you have a lot of private players as well. But why are we focusing on federalism? The current power sector policy initiatives are aimed at promoting competition, improving efficiency, and increasing the share of renewable energy sources in the country's energy mix. I believe that this can be realized in our country only if we adhere to the principles of cooperative federalism, which presently guides the GST regime that regulates indirect taxation in our country. Let's look at what the draft National Electricity Policy 2026 says. It says its objectives are to expand renewable energy sources, end monopolies of distribution companies, to ensure increased competition and efficiency, to bring about cost-reflective tariffs, mandatory automatic tariff revisions, faster payment of subsidies so that the aggregate technical and commercial losses, which we call AT&C losses, are totally eliminated. Why do we need cooperation at all? As I said earlier, regulation is mainly through a federal structure. If you look at the Electricity Act 2003, which is a central legislation, the rules and regulations of electric power are framed both at the central and state government levels. While the scheme was aimed at creating a more competitive and transparent power sector by separating generation, transmission, and distribution functions, implementation has not been on expected lines. And this is something that we've been struggling with. What we often encounter is populist tariff schemes being framed by states. Why would they do that? They use the distribution, and how would they do that? They use their distribution companies or discoms as tools for patronage, offering free or highly subsidized power to farmers, domestic consumers. For what joy? For both. So what happens when you actually start subsidizing and passing on those losses to discoms? Tariff issues affect the ability of discoms to buy power to supply to the consumers. If discoms start supplying electricity at a tariff lower than the cost of supply, then together with the delay in tariff revisions by the SERCs, discoms would face huge financial losses, and they actually are facing those today. The differential tariff structure for low-end consumers like farmers, domestic consumers on one hand, high-end consumers like industries and commercial establishments on the other, means that the latter effectively cross-subsidize the former. Perhaps because of this, the high-end consumers have of late been migrating to renewable energy sources like solar and nuclear. Why? Because there is substantial funding for those at the central level. And there's generally a thinking that there are cleaner energy options and therefore they must be subsidized, and therefore you have the average cost per unit for commercial and industrial consumers drops considerably. The shift towards these renewable energy sources was actually evident because on 29th of July 2025, when the conference was going on in Delhi, India actually met 51.5% of its total electricity demand exclusively through renewable energy sources, signaling a high-scale grid integration of green energy. Discoms also have another problem. Although it is well intended that they give subsidy, the state governments give subsidy for the consumers like the farmers and households. What happens is the discoms don't get the benefit of those subsidies. The subsidy payments are delayed, which means they don't have any money to operate. And what do when they don't have money to operate? They go to the banks, they go to the financing institutions, they take short-term loans. The costs for repaying those are going to be exponentially high. So this becomes an added cost. And if it can't be passed on through tariffs, then there's more losses coming in. This was what was sought to be amended, or what is tried to be amended, through the Electricity Amendment Bill 2025. It seeks to promote competition among discoms by allowing multiple discoms in the same area to provide consumers with options. It also envisages that new discoms can use existing distribution infrastructure without having to invest in new networks by paying charges set by the SERC. Focus is also on eliminating cross-subsidies to make the power sector more financially viable, and the government hopes to lower tariffs through competition and strengthen the financial health of the distribution sector. As expected, the bill has met with protests. Why? Because farmers and household consumers will definitely militate against any increase. Trade unions fear job losses if the discoms are taken over by corporates favored by the government. There is also a fear that the central government is slowly appropriating the powers of the state government. And this is a debate that we've been seeing for some time now. So what are the suggestions that I have for the journey ahead. According to me, the need of the hour is for the central and state governments to demonstrate political, fiscal maturity by embracing the principles of cooperative federalism while implementing the new policy initiatives. The tariffs must be framed in such a way that they reflect the actual cost of purchase of electricity and enable a pass-through to consumers. If the state governments want to subsidize power supply to a segment of consumers, they should make sure that the subsidy amount is made available to the DISCOMs, either PSUs or private entities, within a reasonable time so that the DISCOMs don't suffer financially. This will, in turn, encourage the DISCOMs to invest in infrastructure and ensure uninterrupted availability of power. The central government must try and bring regulation of the energy sector under one ministry. This is important. It may not be the most academic suggestion, but just look at this. Today you have a plurality of ministries. You have a Ministry of Power which deals with electricity. You have a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy which deals with solar, wind and energy, biogas. Ministry of Coal which deals with thermal energy. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas which deals with oil and gas. Department of Atomic Energy which deals with nuclear. Anybody living in India and who has to go to multiple offices for a single permission understands the difficulties of having different ministries regulating the same thing. So you need a merging of ministries to make coordination and implementation of policies faster and more effective. In the case of hydropower, interstate water disputes must be expeditiously resolved so that there can be equitable sharing of waters for energy generation within states. Regulatory bodies at the central and state level, CERC and SERC, they have to operate in sync when it comes to implementation of central schemes. Presently, they are not. That must change. And lastly, smart metering, reliable billing mechanisms must be put in place. And we must adopt a policy, and this is especially true for the courts. We must adopt a policy of zero tolerance in the cases of theft and pilferage of electricity by consumers. This is part of what they call the AT&C losses. Commercial losses happen when there is substantial loss of energy because of theft and pilferage. You have technical losses because of transmission losses happening because there is loss of energy when there's in the form of heat, when electricity is transmitted over long distances. So these small steps of smart metering, reliable billing, etc., would go a long way to minimize, if not completely obliterate, AT&C losses. So those few suggestions, this is my take on what can be done to improve the system. Cooperative federalism is the mantra. Thank you. Well within time.
Thank you, Lordship, for your address on the governance with regard to the center state, with regard to regulations are concerned. Now we move on to the next speaker, Honorable Srimati Justice Maushami Bhattacharya ji, Judge, High Court of Telangana.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll cut down the salutations as advised, but good afternoon, honorable judges from the Supreme Court, Chief Justices, my distinguished panelists, and everyone here. I will just start by saying that, I'm kind of reminded of Aladdin, what we read when we were children. Open, sesame, close, open, close, open, close. Except that I'm not referring to Aladdin, but to the Strait of Hormuz now. So every day when we read the newspapers, or every minute or every 30 seconds when we look at our Google feed, we either find that the Strait of Hormuz is open, or it's closed, or it's conditionally open, or it's unconditionally closed, whatever. But just to impress upon the point that it's not only a conflict now in the Middle East or in the West Asia. It's a conflict which has hit home and really hit home hard, because when we have to sit back and worry about whether we are going to get the next LPG cylinder on time, and whether now it's 25-day gap or a 35-day gap, or we on our way to court, as it happened with me just about 3 weeks back, from my house to my High Court in Hyderabad, there were these snaking, long, winding queues of autos. And they were all waiting for this one particular petrol pump, which was on the route from my house to the High Court, to get their supply of LNG. So it's a conflict which really is upon us, and we are through it, we are going through it. And now with the onset of summer, can you imagine that, as you're sitting down to do some important work or, concentrate on your files or on the next day's work, or you're about to go to sleep, the AC, the air conditioner suddenly just grinds to a halt and there's no fan or there is no light. So it's something, the topic is so very vital and topical, to use a pun, because it's not only geography, it's about economics, it's also about environment, and it's about economics because ultimately it boils down to demand and supply. So apart from the conflict in West Asia now, it's also about India being a highly dependent import country where around approximately 85% of its oil supplies we have to depend upon other countries, and that is, where we are getting hit now. And it's also about price rise and economic instability, because we realize that if the strategic reserves of the country do not last for the next 1 month or so, or at least till the end of the ceasefire and beyond, then we are looking at the specter of an immediate rise in prices and a consequential cascading effect on the economy, where with inflation, with rise in prices, rise in oil, transport costs immediately has a consequential impact on the economy. We are also looking at depletion of fossil fuels and geopolitical instability, because India now is kind of geopolitically very kind of vulnerable, if I may use a word, because we have nations surrounding us who may not be that friendly or looking after India's interests. So having started on that very grim note, I'll go to my slide, my PPT, which gives you a kind of a broad overview to bring home the fact that what we are looking at now is not something which is distant to us in terms of territory and space, but which is something which we need to think about immediately and look at the possible consequences of a war which apparently is far away from us. So this is my topic, as in all of us. So the quick roadmap, I'll just walk you through the PPT, which will not take too much time. So the roadmap is, number one is the evolving energy markets and stability and challenges in the electricity sector. Then number two is federal dynamics of energy governance and the role of RIs. The third is investment frameworks and mechanisms. You can all actually, I don't have to read everything. Four is legal reforms. And the fifth is international cooperation. So if I go to the first one, that's evolving energy markets and grid stability and regulatory challenges. So it's a little bit of a content-heavy slide. So I'll just make it simplify it for you. So what are the measures which can be adopted for a more efficient and sustainable energy transition? Because you know that states like Rajasthan and Jharkhand are energy-rich states. But one of the problems which India is facing is how to transmit that richness and distribute that richness to the other states, which are heavily dependent on coal and fuel supplies for their energy supplies. So one or two quick solutions would be, and my previous speaker, Justice Nambiar, of course, dwelt on it, is, of course, promoting domestic manufacturing of renewable energy, which is renewable energy as well as technology, which is a buzzword now, and to reduce India's dependence on imports and to tighten its infrastructure. and also focus on just or equitable energy transition for coal-dependent states, so that the renewable energy advantages can also be transmitted to the coal energy dependent states, and we have a large number of them in India. So the second one is actually, it's a kind of a continuation, and it tells you what exactly is grid stability. And grid stability, yes, that's fine. So grid stability is all about the ability of an electrical power system to operate reliably, even when faced with changes in supply or demand. So to put it in simple terms, when sometimes we have these not only power failures, but voltage fluctuations, what we have kind of grown up with and lived with. So that happens when there is, of course, an increased demand of electricity, and now with with the heat building up all across India, heat waves in Maharashtra, in Telangana for sure. So apart from the climate changes, it's also about development of industry and the huge and rising demand for power all across the country. So a stable grid will actually be, or should be, the backbone of any reliable power system, and without which the supply and the stability of power will of course deteriorate. And not only that, it can also lead to equipment damage, power outages, and higher costs for electricity. And what is most important is that you're looking at a stable, not only a stable power supply, but also a frequent power supply, which kind of matches with the demand all across the country and the supply which the DISCOMs is able to generate to commensurate with that demand. And also voltage stability, because this refers to the ability to keep voltage levels within a specified range to prevent overloading of equipment and ensure that electricity is efficiently transmitted over, not only in the state, but over long distances, on a pan-India, in a pan-India way. So the next one, I'm just rushing through the slides, so kind of just bear with me, please. The next one is federal dynamics of energy governance and the role of regulatory institutions. So if you think about what the topic actually is, that is, India's energy governance, particularly in the electricity center, exemplifies a complex federal interplay shaped by, that India has a federal, at least a quasi-federal constitution, and electricity falls under the concurrent list. That's, to be specific, entry 38 of the list 3.7 schedule of the constitution, and which mandates cooperation between all the states, and the concurrent powers and division of responsibilities assigned by the Constitution looks at a picture where the distribution from the center to the states through its grid efficiency takes place at a very, very efficient level. So what are the federal dynamics? My previous speakers have already mentioned between the conflict between the SERCs and the CRCs. So basically a kind of a harmonized way of functioning between the central and the state electricity regulatory bodies, so that the consumer at the end does not suffer. I'm told that my time is almost up, so I'll just quickly rush you through the other slides. I've got just a few more. Yeah. So slide number 9 is again a continuation of that, which is, I don't want to read it out, but what are the challenges facing the regulatory institutions, and what are the reforms and future directions. And if you see the future directions, you have, of course, strengthening independence and a unified market regulatory system. And the third is investment frameworks. So when we go to investment frameworks, we have the regulatory innovation and market design, which have fundamentally altered the investment logic of outside investors who want to invest in these market regulatory bodies. And what are the financing mechanisms, the investment frameworks and the financing mechanisms, that is the interplay between public and private partnerships in energy infrastructure. And that would also include capital market investments such as green bonds and infrastructure investment trusts, which is called InvITs, where these are the different kinds of investments where foreign investors can be incentivized to come and invest in these sectors. So this slide is a continuation of my previous slide, and it tells you that how important funding is for these sectors, because discoms are actually now, all of you know, are in an extremely financially distressed condition with huge debts and not enough money to fund electricity investments. And if you, I'll just quickly rush you to the fourth one, which is legal reforms and regulatory frameworks. That is how India can stride over the legal reforms. And if you see the Electricity Amendment Bill of 2025, you'll see that the bill aims at making the Indian industry and logistics more competitive in terms of rationalizing electricity and reducing hidden cross subsidies. And you'll also find that the bottom table, that the legislative intent behind the Electricity Amendment Bill of 2025, that is the persistent financial losses faced by the discoms and the lack of competition in the core sector dealing with electricity supply. So that was the logic why the bill was thought to be necessary. And what are the core pillars of that bill? So that is, of course, that the 2025 amendment sets the stage for a more efficient and a more environmentally efficient and financially sustainable environment. And key reforms is that a defined ownership, and ownership has been defined to include not only subsidiaries but also holding companies and nodal agencies for captive states, as well as verification reforms. I'm not reading everything on the slide so that, you know, it's kind of the points are there. And the second last slide, the fifth, the last segment is international cooperation. So under that, we have energy markets where are fundamentally global due to the unequal distribution of natural resources. And also the data, I'll just take a half a second for that. You have now, as of 2025, that's the statistics of 2026, 31st December 2025, is that the non-fossil capacity addition in 2025-2026 is 55.29 gigawatts, and this is the highest increase in any year till date. And distributed renewable energy from solar has emerged as a significant component of this growth, contributing 16.3 gigawatts. And during 2025-26, wind energy capacity of 6.0 gigawatt has been installed, which is the highest ever capacity building in a single year. So just the last slide actually is how do we go about, what are the forms of international cooperation? And one of them would, of course, be bilateral and multilateral treaties and cooperation agreements. And a recent case study shows that the European Union energy market, the electricity market in the EU allows cross-border trading among member states, enabling a more efficient allocation of energy resources. And this is one of the models which India is trying to follow. And you'll find that in the next slide, that international trade in energy and cross-border energy markets, how India is following not only the EU model, but also some of the Middle Eastern models such as Qatar and UAE. And mechanisms of cooperation also, it's of course policy coordination and investment. And future trends, this is my last slide. Future trends for 2025 and till 2030, because this conference is looking at 2047 as the finishing line, is a rising electrification of renewable energy demand and digitalization of energy systems from smart grids and AI to improve efficiency, and to enable real-time time management, and create a more interconnected and sustainable energy market. I won't dwell on the case law, but these are just like a bullets of nine case laws recently decided by the Supreme Court till about from 2023 to 2026. Important case law there where Supreme Court has dealt on the different, the CERC model, the need for amendment, the immediate risks facing the country. So that's about it. Thank you very much. I just wanted to give you an overview of what I thought were immediate concerns facing all of us. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Your Leadership, for the detailed analysis of the entire session, themes of for the session. Now we move to the next speaker. I invite Honorable Mr. Justice P. Sam Koshi, Judge, High Court of Telangana, to address.
As you all know, I've been literally pushed against the wall with the time running short and the Honorable Chair having to go for another session. I'll try to run through my presentation as quickly as possible and ensure that the Honorable Chair leaves the venue well within time. Honorable Chair, the Co-Chair, Honorable Justice Barale, Honorable Justice Koteshwar Singh, the judges of the Supreme Court, all my esteemed panelists, the sister and brother judges, ladies and gentlemen. Very difficulty in looking at it. Okay. Since yesterday morning, we have been having brainstorming sessions, one after the other, till late evening and again this morning. And we have all been discussing on the very relevant and burning topic of the energy. India today is currently dealing with a significant transition in the energy sector, led by the dual imperatives of sustaining rapid economic growth and meeting ambitious global climate commitments. This massive transformation is unfolding during a period characterized by hyper-digitization, artificial intelligence, and innovative energy solutions, which are fundamentally reshaping now the energy that is produced, distributed, and consumed. The governance of the energy sector in India operates with the quasi-judicial federal framework that presents unique structural and legal complexities. Under the Indian Constitution, the legislative responsibilities are divided, as we all know, between the central and the state. Under the 7th schedule, as has been earlier stated by the speakers, electricity has been placed under the concurrent list, entry 38. The concurrent list jurisdiction means while the central government formulates broad national policies, establishes overarching regulatory frameworks, and controls power generation and interstate transmission, the state governments wield the crucial authority over retail distribution of electricity and the implementation of the demand-side energy efficiency measures. Consequently, the national climate and energy goals cannot be achieved without a robust multi-level coordination between the two tiers of the government. The energy market in India has undergone a significant transformation from a state-dominated monopoly to a competitive market-driven ecosystem. The Electricity Act 2003 delicensed power generation and introduced open access transmission networks, thereby encouraging active power sector participation. This pivotal legislative reform led to the establishment of organized energy trading platforms, notably the Indian Energy Exchange and the Power Exchange India Limited, which introduced transparent price discovery mechanisms and the standardized contracts for day-ahead and term-ahead markets. The regulatory oversight of this market is carefully divided to reflect the federal structure, with the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission managing interstate trade and power exchanges, while state electricity regulatory commissions oversee the intrastate trading and open access. As the country integrates large volumes of intermittent renewable energy into a national grid, these trading mechanisms have evolved to include specialized platforms which are essential for grid balancing and also in facilitating the commercial viability of renewable energy investments. The modernization of the energy market and the achievement of renewable energy targets require an investment framework capable of attracting massive inflows of capital. Foreign direct investment has emerged as a critical driver in this landscape, providing the necessary financial capital, technological expertise, and advanced infrastructure required for a clean energy transition. The integration of the digitalization and the policy reforms has made the renewable energy sector increasingly attractive to global investors by accelerating energy efficiency and technological advancements. However, the continued reliance of fossil fuels to fuel economic growth presents a persistent challenge, posing significant hurdles to a clean energy targets and highlighting the need for targeted legal and financial policy incentives to direct investments exclusively toward green technologies. Despite promising achievements in market, trading and foreign investment, severe legal and practical challenges persist at the intersection of federal relations and the investment climate. One of the primary obstacles is the financial and capacity gap at the state level, particularly concerning the state-owned electricity distribution companies. Furthermore, there is a distant policy alignment gap. While the central government sets high-stake targets, state-level action plans often suffer from delayed implementation, conflicting local priorities, and a lack of trained human resources. Energy transition takes place differently in different states due to the varied social, economic, demographic, technical, and financial landscapes. The multi-level governance friction creates an unpredictable regulatory environment that can affect the investment framework and slow down the deployment of capital needed for the energy transition. To navigate these interconnected challenges, India must synthesize its energy market reforms, federal government structures, and the investment policies into a unified strategic approach. Addressing the financial health of the state distribution companies is a critical prerequisite for maintaining a secure investment framework and a highly functional energy trading market by fostering intergovernment coordination, accelerating the adoption of digital technology, and establish unified legal frameworks to resolve center-state policy conflicts, India can create a resilient ecosystem. Just for concluding, a brief sum up is that renewable energy is rapidly evolving and becoming an increasingly important part of the global energy. This shift is driven by the urgent need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and combat climate change. The growth renewable energy is also fueled by technological advancements, decreasing cost, increasing public and government support. One of the primary challenges with renewable sources like solar and wind is their intermittency. They don't produce energy at all the time at the same rate. Addressing this challenge involves development efficient energy storage solutions and improving the energy grid's ability to handle variable power sources, integrating renewable energy into the existing energy infrastructure requires significant investment and innovation. This includes upgradation of the power grids to handle diverse energy inputs and creating systems for managing the energy distribution. The expansion of renewable energy will depend heavily on the supportive policies, investment in research and developments, and the public acceptance. Governments around the world are setting targets and providing incentives to encourage the growth of the renewable energy. And India is also marching forward in this. Thank you.
Great ideas finds their true power when shared. Sessions after sessions, this conference has enriched our mind, and this session was no exception. Now, may I please invite Honorable Mr. Justice D.K. Singh, Judge Karnataka High Court, and Professor Dr. S. Kumar, President CLEA, to felicitate our esteemed panelists. So, Honorable Mr. Justice Arvind Kumar, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Honorable Mrs. Justice Sunita Agrawal, Chief Justice, High Court of Gujarat. Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson and ex officio Secretary to the Government of India, Central Electricity Authority. Honorable Mr. Justice A.K. Jayasankaran Nambiar, Judge, High Court of Kerala. Honorable Srimati Justice Mausami Bhattacharya, Judge, High Court of Telangana. Honorable Mr. Justice P. Sem Kosi, Judge, High Court of Telangana. Honorable Srimati Justice Tara Vitasta Ganju, Judge, High Court of Karnataka. Mr. Upendra Tripathi, IAS retired, former Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Mr. K.R.R. Ayappamani, Advocate and Vice President, CLEA India. Moderator of this session, Professor Dr. G.G. Mon V.S., Professor and Director, MIT Law School, Mumbai, and Executive Member, CLEA Asia. Mrs. Ranjini Ponan Sheila, Assistant Professor, the Kerala Law Academy, Law College, and Member, CLEA Australia. Thank you very much. Now I would request honorable judges to proceed for lunch to second.
We still have the sessions on. So we continue with this session before we move to the lunch. We have our next speaker, Honorable Srimati Justice Tara Pitasta Ganju, the Judge, High Court of Karnataka. Ma'am, kindly just to deliver the address.
Good afternoon, honorable judges of the Supreme Court, Chief Justices, my brother and sister judges, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to address this August gathering on the theme of energy markets, federalism and investment frameworks. The subject lies at the confluence of law and governance, economic development with far-reaching implications for our constitutional framework. This address advances a narrow proposition. The success of India's energy transition will depend on the strength of its legal and institutional arrangements. The Act and the jurisprudence of the court, the Electricity Act and the jurisprudence of the courts provide for a framework of legal certainty on which power purchase agreements, public-private partnerships, and capital mobilizations rest, even as new regulation on storage, captive structures, and a greater private participation in areas such as nuclear energy responds to a changed grid and market. Cross-border trade, dispute risks likewise require coherent risk allocation, and the judicial role remains to secure legality with technical restraint and a timely resolution. Let me begin with a brief historical reflection. Electricity regulation in India predates the Constitution. In Karnataka, power generation, I was informed, was commissioned on the 30th of June in 1902 at Shiva Samundra, Mandya district. In 1939, the foundation for a hydel unit across the Sharavati near Jog Falls in Shivmoga district was laid. It was then inaugurated in 1948 with a 48 megawatt capacity. Thus, even before we had a constitutional framework, we had begun to organize and regulate energy. This is instructive. Energy infrastructure has long compelled governance, often ahead of its institutional readiness. Federalism and the energy question, it has been touched upon by my speakers, so I will move ahead. Of course, like most last batsmen in the team, I have to rush and basically hit the ball out of the park. So I'm also not going to touch on the Electricity Act, because it has been spoken to a bit. We all know the Act exists. But what I'm going to straight away skip to is recent legal and policy developments. There's a short slide because there has been talk about what reform is coming. So we have the Electricity Amendment Rules of 2026. We have the Tariff Second Amendment Regulations of 2026. The Electricity Amendment Rules, of course, is there to bring clarity, captive generation, particularly in group captive structures, recognizing compliance and simplifying consumption norms. The Second Amendment regulations integrate energy storage systems into tariff frameworks, another thing which has been missing in the past. The draft National Electricity Policy, again, is moving a focus towards financial stability, grid resilience, and technological integration. The next is something called the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy. Funnily enough, it's called Shanti, even though it talks about nuclear energy. It's been notified, this act has been notified in 2025, but it signals a shift towards enabling a greater private participation in nuclear energy by recollaborating aspects of a liability framework and strengthening of regulation. For investors, the broader point would be that there's a clear statutory design implemented consistently to reduce and lower the risk of capital. There's also the Green Energy Open Access Rules of 2022, sought to widen access by lowering threshold to 1 megawatt. These developments, and the reason why I'm setting these out for you, is when taken together reflect a system adapting to structural change. However, amendment alone is insufficient. The rules enacted at the central level must be operationalized at the state level, and the pattern in India has been that central reforms face state level resistance through delayed notification and additional conditions. Somebody earlier, one of our esteemed speakers earlier talked about sustainability. And what is sustainability? Why is it not defined? I can tell you from personal experience growing up in a household where in the 80s we had solar energy. I've seen this all my life. Sustainability is life. And that's the only way you can define it. Sustainable energy is the only way we can prolong life. The judicial role, again, skipping so that we don't, for the constraints of time. What is the judiciary doing? We occupy a central position in the evolving framework. As electricity is increasingly recognized as integral to the right to life under Article 21, at the same time, the sector involves technical, economic, and policy considerations. The task, therefore, is one of balance. Intervention by the judiciary must remain firm against arbitrariness and illegality while exercising restraint in matters that require specialized expertise. The principle is not deference, it is precision. And timelines also matter. In a continuously operating structure, prolonged uncertainty can destabilize financing. The question is not only whether a judgment is right, but whether it's right in time. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, energy governance in India began before the Constitution. Decades later, underlying tensions remain between the union and states, markets and regulation, ambition and implementation. So what is required? Institutional coherence. A federal network that enables coordination while respecting autonomy, regulatory bodies that are independent in practice, not merely design, investment environments anchored in legal certainty, and a judicial process capable of resolving disputes speedily and with depth. The Act laid a strong foundation, but the demands of the future will require deeper alignment, stronger institutions, and the consistent application of law. A sector that demanded governance before the republic was born now requires governance worthy of a mature republic. The stakes are immediate and national. The light of 1.4 billion people depend on getting this right. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Leadership, for giving an analysis of the gap and the regulations. Now we move on to the last speaker of the session, Mr. Upendra Tripathi, IAS, retired, former Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE.
It's an honor to stand here with this distinguished panel. In fact, the Honorable Justices here have proven that any market that operates with land, labor, capital, and technology needs as much a justice system. And this has been told by so many people today. It is actually critical. In fact, Prime Minister keeps on telling about India's demography, democracy, and demand. And I also thank Government of Karnataka for having invited me. In fact, in the field of energy, they have become not only an excellent leader, because I've been seeing them from my MNRE days. They created Pavagada Solar Park. It became so famous that 50 high commissioners and ambassadors from all over the world came to see this solar park at one point of time. And not only that, Karnataka also, in order to promote sustainability, put 10 million rupees with International Solar Alliance and created a global award called Vishweswaraya Award for Floating Solar. And the first year, this award went to Japan. Congratulations to them. And Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad is here, and we were working together long back when in 2014 Mr. Piyush Goyal came as the minister, holding 3 ministries together, coal, power and renewable. He was a minister of state with independent charge. But those were the beginning. And I remember a small anecdote, and I have 5 minutes, so I'll be very brief. We got when Prime Minister came in 2014, first time, the Prime Minister Modi, and he wanted secretaries to make presentations before him as to, what all they had in mind. So I prepared a presentation with 30 slides. One day before, we got a call from the Prime Minister's office that there is a rule called 7 by 7 by 7. It meant each secretary can present 7 slides, and no slide will have more than 7 sentences, and no sentence will have more than 7 words. And it was really tough to bring down from 30 slides to 5 slides. And today is like that. In 5 minutes, we have to talk about this thing. So what I'll do is I'll tell 1 or 2 anecdotes and link it to the sustainability framework, because there is no time to debate now what is sustainability. It may be life, may not be life, but we know that we are in a situation where net zero is the only way out. Because 3 things are striking us. We are in the midst of 6th mass extinction and pollution. But the worst is global warming. Put together, how do I put a metaphor for this? I can just slow COVID. COVID came very fast. It punished delay. We spent trillions of dollars, and we required coordinated action. Could you put that slide, first slide? And global warming is something similar. We have 1 million islands. Now think of half of it going down the sea, and we have some 500 million people in the cities, in the Indian Ocean. Think of sea level going up and the cities going down. So the only thing now, we are in a situation where debate, there's no time for debate anymore, because everybody hears that word called 1.5 degree GM, global mean temperature. We are going to miss it. But 1.5 degree doesn't mean all over the world, everywhere, the variation will be 1.5 degrees Celsius. India, for example, Leh, it will be 3 degrees. Planes cannot land anymore. And so this is the picture. And, energy, agriculture, waste, industry. When we created International Solar Alliance in 2015, it was not that one sun, one world, one grid. That was, of course, a motivation. We used this to convince all the countries to support India. Most of the headquarters of international bodies are outside, in Washington, in New York, in Paris, and all such cities. To get it to Delhi, we had to convince countries as to why India. India announced 100 gigawatt of solar, and those days it was very, very ambitious. Behind a backdrop of 20 gigawatt, suddenly 5 times. How do you get capital? We got 250 financiers, industry people together to Delhi. We called it Renewable Energy Invest, Reinvest. And then we brought in a policy. Mr. Piyush Goyal called all the industry people, closed the door, and asked, what do you want? Accelerated depreciation, tax holiday, whatever they wanted, we listed out, put into the PM speech, and then that became policy. And in next 2 more minutes, I'm not going into details of this sector, but essentially we told those days to the countries to convince them that you electrify things. Still 1 more minute is there. I just told that 1 more minute is left. And that is how we said electrify coal, electrify oil, use all biomass, and solarize, because sun is not prevented by the Strait of Hormuz. It is available everywhere. And having said all that today the potential of this place that we go back, maybe Karnataka will be the first net zero province in India. Maybe somebody from here will announce a high court as net zero high court, net zero Supreme Court. Or maybe you in your organization can talk about a net zero organization. But to conclude, I will tell the anecdote that my professor at Carleton University, where I studied for 4 years, told us while teaching environmental education. He went to a Latin American country, went to a shop in the downtown. The name of the shop was 50-50. So he goes to the shop and says, what is this? He says, look, I have a new type of meat with various vitamins. My professor bought 1 kilo, came and ate it. The shop owner had told him that this is a mix of horse meat and chicken. Now, he didn't feel any chicken inside. He went back angry and told, look, didn't you tell me it is 50-50? 50% horse meat and 50% chicken? He said, yes, I told you it is 50-50. I took a big horse and a big chicken and I had thoroughly mixed it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed analysis of the energy sector. Thank you. Now we move to the vote of thanks by Mrs. Ranjini Ponanshila, Assistant Professor, Kerala Law Academy and member CLA, Australia.
Honorable Mr. Justice Arvind Kumar, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Srimati Justice Sunita Agarwal, Chief Justice of High Court of Gujarat, distinguished judges, members of academia, respected members on and off the dais, dear participants and students, good afternoon to all. It's great honor to propose vote of thanks at the close of this intellectually enriching session on energy market, federalism and investment framework. This session has not merely been a convergence of legal mind, but a meaningful dialogue at the intersection of law, policy, and future of sustainable governance. I express my deep gratitude to our distinguished chair, Honorable Justice Arvind Kumar, Judge, Supreme Court of India, for his august presence today and whose stewardship brought clarity, structure, and intellectual depth to the session. I am equally grateful to our co-chair, Honorable Srimati Justice Sunita Agarwal, Chief Justice, High Court of Gujarat, whose nuanced observation on federal dynamics, climate responsibility commitments, institutional roles enriched the discourse and highlighted the complexities inherent in our energy governance. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the keynote speaker, Mr. Ghanshyam Prasad, Chairperson, Ex Officio Secretary to Government of India, Central Electricity Authority, for reflecting the deliberations and approaches on energy marketing. I extend my deepest gratitude to Honorable Justice A.K. Jaishankar Dampiya, Judge, High Court of Kerala. Sir, your expertise has greatly enriched the session and we are truly grateful. We are deeply grateful to Honorable Srimati Justice Maishomi Bhattacharya, Judge, High Court of Telangana, for your constructive thoughts and commitment. I wish to convey my deepest gratitude to Honorable Justice P. Shyamkoshi, Judge, High Court of Telangana. Sir, your deliberations have made a significant impact and we are thankful. I propose my sincere thanks to Justice Tara Vidasta Ganju, Judge, High Court of Karnataka, for her exceptional contributions and for his insightful session. I extend my gratitude to Mr. Upendra Tripathi, IAS former Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, for sharing your wisdom and experience with us and for your unwavering commitment to excellence. I extend my deepest gratitude to Advocate K.R. Ayyapamani sir, Vice President CLEA India, for his gracious welcome, which set a thoughtful and purposeful tone for the deliberations that followed. I extend special thanks to our moderator, Professor Dr. Jijimon V.S., whose adept guidance ensured a seamless flow of ideas and fostered an environment of rigorous yet constructive engagement. On behalf of everyone here, I would like to express our sincere thanks to our rapporteurs, Mr. Avedesh Diopande, Research Scholar, Indian Law Institute, Mr. Rajvinash Verma, and Ms. Gadija Dhamma, Ramaya College of Law, Bengaluru, for his meticulously documenting your expertise. Will greatly enrich the session and will be documented for future. To our vibrant, enthusiastic participant, your engagement and intellectual curiosity have truly animated this session, and the conversations initiated here will undoubtedly continue to shape scholarship, policy, and practice in the field of energy and law. We express our collective gratitude to Professor Dr. Shivakumar, the President of Commonwealth Legal Education Association, Senior Professor, Indian Law Institute, and to the Department of Energy, Karnataka, for conceptualizing and organizing a platform of such an academic and professional excellence. This conference stands as a testament to CLEA's enduring commitment to advance legal education and fostering global collaboration. With this, I thank each one of you for making this session more meaningful and memorable one. Thank you.
Now, may I request honorable judges to proceed for the lunch. For the honorable judges and distinguished guests, kindly proceed to second floor, Kavini Hall for lunch. And for all the other participants, we may have our lunch here right in the first floor itself. And we shall commence our last session sharp at 2:15 p.m. So may I request everyone to be on time. Thank you.
Check, check. Check.
ಗ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡಿಡಬೇಕು. ಸರ್ ನಾನು ಹಾಲಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೆ. ಸರ್ so much of content.
ಹೇಳಿ ಅವರು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಇಕ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಈಗ ಬಿಡಪ್ಪ ನೀರು 2 ಗ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ. ಟಾಕ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಸೈಡ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದಾನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ले लो यार अब आप.